thank you, Gianmarco, for the presentation. Very clear position of the industry. Yeah, I seen there are a couple of questions, so maybe we can borrow 3-4 additional minutes, and then yeah, the first question actually I received, Gianmarco, is to you. So then let's go, and I ask you please answer very briefly because we don't have so much time. Is actually regarding the industrial policy, what are the ANFIA's proposal to support the sector in the technological transition and the current economic situation? I think you explained this a bit in your presentation. I guess if you could give more concrete ask or what you think is needed really to achieve the transition.
Yeah, I already mentioned that there are 2 points that we think that will be quite important for industrial policy. One is a sort of medium-term incentives package to sustain the purchasing of alternative fuels vehicles in the future, hydrogen and also obviously electric vehicles. A long-term project, so 3, 4, 5 years, because in Italy we are used sometimes to have measures that last 1 year, then they stop 1 year, they then put again another measure. So we need a sort of continuous and let me say sure framework of time for the future. And the other issue that I already mentioned is the need to develop the infrastructure for alternative vehicles in Europe, in Italy, because right now, if we see, for example, the passenger cars industry in Italy, we have a quite big number of charging points, but just 10% of these charging points are fast or ultra fast charging points. And then another issue is that these charging points are not well spread in Italy, but are focused on the main industrialized areas like in the northern part in Italy. But you know that the freight goes around all the road, so we need also to put in a capillary way, to invest in a capillary way the infrastructure for electric trucks, and also for in the future for refueling hydrogen trucks. Thank you.
Thank you, yeah, Marco. Then the other question is for Mr. Apetekia. So then the question is actually it's 2 combined questions, because there was, while your presentation, a comment on the technological transition challenge if can zero emission freight road haulage beyond 1,000 kilometers really be the objective, and saying that the European Commission pushes more for modal shift to rail as a solution, and I also made a comment here on that question. And then it's also linked to the actual EU deadlines to achieve transport carbon neutrality and also the reductions for 2030. If they are, what's your assessment if they are realistic or too optimistic, and what we need to do to achieve that actually?
Yes, I'll try to stay in a few minutes. But just to try to complete my presentation, because the time was very short and a lot of things to say. So just to have an idea in the way we achieve the general goal to reduce 50% the emission starting from now. And what I think that we have 3 levels of goals: short-term goals, medium-term goals, and long-term goals. And in these goals, we also find all the different propositions that the other speakers made during their presentation. We have a short-term goal is to reduce emission with the reduction of movements, because we don't have now the technology, the organization in order to reduce now with the same movements the emission. So we have to reduce. So how we can reduce movements with the same quantity of freight to transport, or if we think that we will have a development with more quantity. we have to well-organized transport. And in this, we have some examples that explain what means same quantity with less movements. The second level of objectives, of goals, is of medium term, and in the presentation of Mr. Jordan is already said this, is an alternative fuel without carbon but not renewable. And so the bio LNG is exactly this, because in this case we have a reduction in the production of the fuel because we reduce emission from geotechnical products, and also a reduction in the combustion because the bio LNG is without carbon, so we will not have carbon emission. And the third level is in the future, of course, when we will have all the technology ready in order to change the engine, and so all the different proposition that ANFIA is already on activity. For the short-term objectives, we have two best practices in Italy. One, the combined transport, rail and trucks. We have the first line, combined line, Italy-Germany was the first in Europe per trains moved and quantity of merchandise transported. And also we augmented during this last 10 years of 50% our percentage of combined transport in the total rail traffic. So it's our best practice, and we are working a lot. And this is a way to rationalize the trade movements in order to reduce the truck movement and to augment the rail transport. The second best practice is the combined transport vessels plus trucks, and is the motorways of the sea. And in this case, we have an augmentation of the traffic of 30%, 40% during the last 15 years. And if we look at the traffic, total waterborne traffic in Italy, we can so that we can see that the total port traffic is reducing, but the motorways of the sea, so the combined transport vessel plus truck, is augmenting. So is a sort of difference that means that in our transport organization, this combined transport is growing, and is a way in order to reduce emission in the waiting the future development of technology. Thank you.
Thank you, Andrea, for all these additional insights on your presentation. From an analyst point of view, as you know, we also have in our roadmap increased rail and motorways of the sea as one of the drivers to decarbonization. But we see that even in these increases, still road will be the most used transport mode. So then we need to act. We cannot believe that only thinking we can move everything to rail and in our waterways or motorways of the sea. This is a long-term possible scenario. We need the long haul road transport for many years, I think. So then, okay, I thank you very much for all the speakers in this session. I think you managed to drive us into the different programs, initiatives, projects, concerns, but also ideas in your region and in the country, and that's very useful for us. And now, if the participants have additional questions, you can continue sharing those in the chat and try to get the speakers answering them. And without any more delay, I would like to hand over to Carlo Raffaele, that is going to moderate the second session, that is actually a roundtable on zero emission in the logistics sector. And Carlo is Professor of Supply Chain Management, Department of Management, Production Engineering Politecnico de Torino. So Carlo, the floor is yours.
Okay.
Thank you.